okay, I know what I want to do, but I also am listening to my body and what it's telling me it needs me to do. Because I need my body to trust me as much as I want to be able to trust it.
Have you ever been told that it's normal to feel tired, crummy, and achy? That your health conditions are permanent, or that you're too old for certain activities? If we're expected to feel bad, why do we bother to try to feel good? Thinking and feeling this way can be deeply frustrating, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can become unbreakable. Discovering who you really are can be the most exciting adventure of your life if you have the courage to look deep within, face your fears, and overcome your self-limiting beliefs. Welcome to the most exciting adventure of your life. Welcome to a new way of living, and welcome to the Fierce Planet Adventures podcast.
Hi, I'm Casey.
And I'm Andy. And we're on a mission to inspire and guide 1 million people to live a life of purpose, passion, and self-mastery, leveraging the 5 mountains of cutting-edge human development and to build extreme mental fitness.
Today's guest has been dismantling the lies about what to expect from her body and now helps thousands of others do the same. Kate Galliett has 19 years of experience coaching, a BS in exercise science from Valparaiso University, and certifications as a functional range conditioning mobility specialist, as well as in functional range assessment. Kate uses her experience to help others get relief from their aches, overcome their mental hurdles, and build an unbreakable body that they love to be in. Kate recently made the transition from gym owner to online entrepreneur, selling her successful gym and moving her business online to head west and enjoy some mountains. She also recently released her book, Becoming Unbreakable: How to Build a Body You Love to Live In. Welcome, Kate.
Hi, it's wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. And we always start off the conversation by asking what you're most excited about in your life right now.
What a great question. I'm most excited, well, so many things, right? But that there's enrichment happening in my life in a variety of arenas, because as you all likely know, and as probably folks listening know too, there's points in your life where it's very, very focused on one thing. Maybe that's raising kids or getting job promotions so you can get to a level you want to be at, and it's sports or fitness or the military. It's very singular, and I've had many of those seasons in my life. Now, though, I'm getting to a place where I'm actually focusing on my skill set with the garden and learning how to grow things, with being a new pet owner. I was kind of telling you all about that before we started. And with learning skills that I'm really excited to use as a strong human for the rest of my life, and still do my work and do all my other things. But I'm just really excited that life is really enriching, and that I don't feel like I'm doing things because I need to grind to the next level at the moment. I'm doing things to take steps every day to make my life better and to make myself a more well-rounded human being.
Oh, that's beautiful. How did you get to that point and make that pivot?
Great question. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And it won't last forever. I'm sure there's going to be another phase of life where I'm like, oh boy, it's all hands on deck for my home repairs or my job or whatever. And I think it's funny because we get this illusion of what we think other people's lives are like, because of the internet and social media, especially. And so we get this sense that you see someone who's doing things you want to do, and you in some way sometimes think, oh, must be nice. They must not have all the other challenges that I have. And that might be true. But there's also different phases of life where there are times where you can balance things better, and times where life is just going to demand more of you and you have to put some things on the back burner. So all the years that I was coaching in a gym owned by someone else, then all the years that I owned my own gym and coached clients and had trainers, and then the first 5 years of my online career of moving my whole business to the internet, that demanded everything of me. And I had no capacity for starting a garden, learning how to do a good job growing my own food, things that I'm really interested in, taking up archery, learning how to hunt, learning how to backpack for long distances. There just wasn't room for that. And I could have killed myself trying to force it all to fit. But I've run into brick walls enough times in my life to know when I would be heading towards a brick wall at full speed if I take on one more thing. And so in a roundabout way, the point where I'm at now is that my entire job for the last 2 years has been to write the book that I'm supposed to write and then share it with the world. And so I'm doing that now. And it has essentially eliminated a lot of the other work I was doing in the past. I still coach clients one-on-one, both in person in the town where I live now and online. But there's much less of that other work, selling programs and doing other things, because the only focus has been on this one thing. And then we can kind of, that ball is rolling and I can go to the next thing. And so in a way, becoming more singularly focused has actually made it so I have the mental and physical bandwidth to then say, okay, now I have a half an hour every other day. I'm going to take my little gardening class that I signed up for, or I'm going to go work in the yard, or I'm going to go lift weights. I just bought some new kettlebells, right? So I'm going to get back into some kettlebell training. And so in some ways it was a choice to be singular focused and accept that that meant I wouldn't be putting out new programs for a number of years, which can be scary financially. It can be scary because it feels like you lose ground on your competition, so to speak, or that you might become irrelevant. But being willing to take the risk to put the singular focus on one thing actually ended up giving me a little more bandwidth to diversify my life and make it a little more rich than I would have ever expected.
Oh, just the process of simplifying a lot of what's going on in your life and allowing some sort of flow to avoid the overwhelm, like you were saying, of forcing one more thing.
Yeah, I think you can at periods of your life, but that is one lesson I've learned. And I learned it through my health and my well-being, because I did keep running into brick walls with my fitness and in my health practices. And and I write about this in my book, it took a while for me to realize that I would actually make more progress if I stopped running into brick walls and accepted that there were some things I'm just not going to be able to do right now, because believe it or not, there is a finite amount of resources when it comes to being a human. You have to sleep. You only have so much energy. You're managing a stress load that is going to make it so that, like, I can think back on, everybody was doing like keto diets, and sure, that's fine, a fine diet to do in a certain place in your life. But like, I had too many other stressors going on to actually have that work for me. And so moments like that where you go, okay, I know what I want to do, but I also am listening to my body and what it's telling me it needs me to do. Because I need my body to trust me as much as I want to be able to trust it. And my body's not going to trust me if I'm constantly being like, all right, body, here's 4 hours of sleep, lots of caffeine, a keto diet, tons of workouts, stress to the max at work. Like, my body's gonna be like, what are you doing? And it's going to shut down on me. That lesson, though, allowed me to apply that to my work life and my home life and actually harmonize those out a lot more. And it's funny you say simplify. That really has been the word I've said more this year than I've ever said in my whole life. I just want simplified everywhere.
Kate, can you tell us a little bit about your background, how and where you grew up and what got you into coaching?
I would love to. I grew up in the far northwest suburbs of Illinois in a very rural town where there was nothing to do. The neighbor kid and I would go climb trees and ride bikes, and that was it. And that was great. And I knew at a very young age, I wanted to help people. I thought I would be a doctor. And I always joke that was true until I got to college and I ran into some chemistry classes. And then I was like, I don't think I want to do this, because you have to do the chemistry to get to the pre-med part of things. I don't think I want to. No, thank you. And so I'm more of a biology lover. I didn't have it in me to do the chemistry, but I played sports all through high school, and into kind of college, I started getting into strength and conditioning. And so I thought, well, okay, if I'm not going to be a doctor, what am I going to do? And then I learned about physical therapists, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. So I started looking into that and got myself onto the track to get a BS in exercise science in my college career. But thankfully, and I don't know if schools still do this, I hope they do, we had to do internships, unpaid. Okay. You have to work for free. You have to pay your dues. You had to do internships that were unpaid, and you had to do one in the field you thought you were going to go into. And then you had to just pick another one. And I'm so glad they made us do that, because the physical therapy clinic was cool in lots of ways. But the other internship I picked was at a gym that had opened up that had personal trainers. And I had never seen personal trainers before. This was late 90s, early 2000s. So like personal trainers were for very rich, famous people. At least that's how it kind of came across at that point. So I was like, whoa, this is so neat. You get to like teach people about exercise and how to be healthy, and you get to catch them before they get injured and wind up in the physical therapy clinic. Like, whoa, this is so neat. And so I just devoured that. I loved it. I spent as many hours as I could working in that gym for free to like cut my teeth. And I'm really glad, because it taught me the value of hard work, and that if you give, and you serve, and you come from a space of service, it comes back around to you. And so after I got my BS, I immediately called that gym up and was like, I want a job at your place. Do you think you guys could hook me up? And they were like, absolutely. You've been here before. And that really started my career. And the only thing I've ever done, other than being a lifeguard when I was in, younger years, other than that, the only thing I've ever done was help people with their bodies by being a personal trainer and a movement specialist and a strength coach. And so I was working with folks, trying to help them get stronger and achieve their fitness goals. But at the same time, there was a second part to this story.
When I think about energy and vitality, I think about a kid. They have the energy to play, run around, climb things. That energy that feels like you just can't contain yourself. It's the stuff we've always wished they could just bottle up and sell to us, right? Well, this company's found a way to do just that. Amari's Happy Juice Pack. Mood, motivation, energy, things our bodies can naturally produce when both our guts and our brains are happy and communicating. And we can actually improve that process of communication across the axis of the gut and the brain. This is cutting-edge science. This is game-changing information. This is where science meets soul. This is Amari, and we're helping people feel better naturally. Boost your serotonin and GABA. Balance your neurotransmitters. Nourish your gut. The things that make you want to do. Start feeling better the natural way. Check out the links in the show notes for discounts and more information.
As athletic as I was as a kid, and as, sports oriented as I was, I didn't feel good. I had a lot of health breakdowns. I had a lot of recurring conditions that kept getting treated with antibiotics, or that doctors kept telling me, well, that's just how you are. Like sick, lethargic, run down, chronically infected, lots of injuries, asthma, all sorts of stuff. And that just wasn't jiving with me. I was like, there's no possible way. And then a pretty life-changing event happened. And I realized that it can't possibly be too late for me to change, because I've actually witnessed someone's own too late moment. My father passed away when I was 17. And that's a legitimate too late moment. When you see someone die, that's it. That's a real eye opener. Yeah. And so knowing that, despite having some fears and worries as a young, early 20 something, that like, oh my gosh, what if it is too late for me? What if they're right? What if I am destined to feel this way? And it's all downhill from here because you're, quote, getting older now, which like 20s, really getting older? You gotta be kidding me. But I didn't know what to do with that, because I knew that couldn't be true. I'd seen what a real too late moment looks like, but I didn't have anyone who was exemplifying what I thought might be possible for me, which was to feel strong and capable, and what today, what I call being unbreakable, until I met these two clients of mine. I met them at the gym, and they were the same. They were like, screw this. I am not, they were 50 and 60 at that point. They're like, I'm not letting this slow me. Like, you got to be kidding me. They wanted to go on mountain hikes, and they wanted to backpack, and they wanted to do all these things. But the world was telling them, you should be slowing down now. You're like 55 years old. Like, what are you doing? And we were like the perfect combination to go, okay, let's do this. And so I got to share my expertise in training the body with them and showing them that, like, we can change bodies no matter their age. We can always make them work better until the day we die, because that's the only point when it's really too late. And they were these older adults exemplifying to me, see, it is possible. You can do this. That set the course for the rest of my life, because from then on, I was like, oh, the kind of people I want to work with are the ones who also think there's no way it's too late for me. As I say today, too old is a myth. So if you think too old is a myth, we would do well working together, because there's no such thing as too old. So I spent the next 20 years actively seeking clients like that, looking for people who are looking for that in their life, and then sharing my knowledge with them and sharing what I was learning about how the human body works, teaching them my methods for how you can train a body so that it feels younger at 50 than it did at 35 and on up, right? And so that led me to, of course, first working in that gym and then opening my own gym and really enhancing my methods there, building an online program that allowed me to take it to the world. And then from there going, okay, I need to do a book here because I want something that I can hand to someone or that a friend could hand to someone and say, you know, that back pain you keep talking about, read this book. I think it might help you. And it can just be enough to light the spark in someone to go, oh, it isn't too late for me. I can do this. And then over the span of the book, they can learn all the basics they need to actually build a body they love to live in. And here we are today. I'm talking to you guys, meeting cool people who have similar agendas in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I suspect that most people out there listening to us today or that will come across this podcast have had some level of an experience that's very similar or have been told these things. And I think we'll share a little bit of what we've gone through just to give some perspective and, to validate, not validate, that's the wrong word, just to lend credibility or lend our experience to it. Over 30 years ago, I was discharged from the Marine Corps with the back injury. And when I got into the VA system, literally I'm in my 20s and they're telling me that in the next 15 to 20 years, I'm going to be in a wheelchair and that my life is pretty much, just going to be that. And I shouldn't expect much more from life than that and all the complications that go along with being confined. So, being a Marine veteran, my response was I give them the middle finger and go work out in the gym and, move to Colorado. Hiking, ice climbing, mountaineering were just some of the sports that I picked up along the way. And, to this day, I still, think back on that moment and I'm like, yeah, I proved you guys wrong. And, if you listen to conventional wisdom, it's not always very good. And if you let somebody else define your life for you and what you're capable of, it's very, very restrictive, very demeaning, very confining. And, fast forward a whole bunch of years and, I was starting to feel very lethargic. And I've talked about this before in other podcasts and, couldn't sleep, but then I couldn't get out of bed. And, I just had no energy. My focus was off. And, went to the VA again and they're like, you've got depression. Here's some Prozac, move on, Well, a few years later, I found an integrative health specialist, a doctor's office that used, integrative medicine, and through different techniques of testing and, a combination of nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals, we determined that I had Lyme disease. And, we were able to actually eliminate that and cure me from it. And from that point forward, it was a whole different perspective on life, thinking more clearly, happy, full of energy, just excited to get back out into the mountains and do our stuff. And but if I had listened just to what the doctor said, and don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing on the VA. I love them to death. I work with them all the time. They're good people. They mean well. They do good work, but sometimes they just don't have all the pieces to the puzzle, as with any medical system.
That's quite a story. I'm so glad you're better today. I feel this. I had a similar scenario. Western med was telling me one thing, and I was like, this can't be right. And someone introduced me to some integrative and functional medicine. And I was like, they looked at the picture more completely and did testing that the Western folks, well, they weren't even testing. They were just like, here's a pill. And I can't believe the radical difference that happened. People look at me now and they're like, oh, it's easy for you. You've always been healthy and energetic and whatever. And I'm like, no, I was in a really bad place before. You wouldn't believe it if you saw where I was before and what I had to go through to heal. It's a journey.
Yeah, it is. Right. And when you find the right guide on that journey, it's life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
And my recommendation to everybody that is dealing with something similar is, look outside of your conventional, medical teams, and see if there's somebody out there that is a specialist in what you're going through. Don't be boxed in by, conventional wisdom and Western thinking when it comes to your health.
I love that.
Speaking of stories and belief systems, and why is it that you think so many people aren't actually in the driver's seat of their own health?
That's a great question. A client asked me that yesterday too. I can't presume to know what anyone else believes or why, or what's led them to where they are. Here's what I do know. We all arrive at the place that we're at because of what we've experienced and how we've interpreted it. So it's never wrong. Because I think a lot of folks at first would feel defensive if they say, well, I have a reason to feel this way. I agree. I had a reason to feel the way I did too. So I'm never saying that. We have a reason that we arrive at the place we're at, believing what we believe. And it takes some dismantling to start to look into your inner thoughts and why you believe what you do, or why you feel like you've kind of been held back in some way, or why you think there's no hope for you. But aside from what someone's personal way that they come to their understanding is, let's all be honest here. Society doesn't exactly make it like a majority opinion that you can feel great as you get older. People who want to sell things have marketing they need to do. Marketing is very good at highlighting what you're afraid of and what you fear. That's what most marketing focuses on, not what you can achieve and what's possible, but what you're worried about, and acquiescing to, your pain rather than teaching you how to do something with it. Right. And, no one's trying to take the easy way out. I don't think anyone's copping out of anything. I think though, a lot of folks have barely any bandwidth to try to go find solutions. I think a lot of folks are so uncomfortable that they're like, look, I just need to feel better. And the Advil makes me feel better, or the pain medication or whatever makes me feel better. Or I'm so tired, sitting on the couch does feel better than exercising, which I totally get. The first hurdle is the hardest hurdle to get over. It really is. In addition, because it can, well, at least from my perspective, and with some clients I've worked with, this has come up too. There's, for some of us, a worry that what if it doesn't work, and you don't want to find out that it might not work for you. Like, we don't want to, the fear can be like, what if I'm the one that it doesn't work for? If you go finding out whether or not it works for you, it can be scary to be like, shoot, what if it doesn't? Like, oh my God, I don't want to prove that. Like, I don't want to find out that it's not going to work for me. But here's what I say to that. I teach something in my book and in my coaching called the explorer's mindset. And it's a way of thinking and looking at your entire life and using it as an opportunity to discover what works, what doesn't, why, and how to curate your unique protocol of stuff that's going to make you feel unbreakable in your body and in your life. Most people haven't been taught how to do that, though. It requires that you have an openness and a willingness to investigate, a willingness to use something like the scientific method to actually experiment in a reasonable way. Because so many of the people I meet, they're like, well, I've tried everything. And I'm like, I bet it feels that way. I bet I can give you a suggestion about something you haven't tried yet, though. But we have to be willing to do it for long enough to see if it's making a difference. We can't be wishy-washy about it. So all of these variables, I think, influence why so many people don't feel like there's an opportunity, feel like, well, I think they're right. Like, when you're 30, you shouldn't expect your knees to feel good. When you're 50, you should expect to have gained 40 pounds and have your back hurt. Like, I get why people think that. And I show up in the world to let people know you don't have to think that. And there's another way. And even if the first 5 things you try don't work, they actually did, because they get you closer to what does. The only way I got to all of the answers I have found for myself and for my coaching clients is by trying things, is by being willing to go out on a limb, try something out, see how it works. I mean, like the story I told you earlier about keto, there's definitely been times where I've tried things being like, man, I really want this to work because I see how well it works for that person, whoever I'm looking at. Right. And it just doesn't. Like, it's too hard for me at this point in my life. I can't manage it. I can't It's causing downstream effects that I don't want. And that requires some humility as well to go, okay, it's all right. It's not going to work for me this way right now. Maybe I'll revisit it, but I'm going to collect myself and go on to the next thing and try what's next. Like Andy was saying, if you just accept the first thing someone tells you, okay, the decision has been made for you in a way. You want to be able to question things and have a healthy willingness to question and say, is that really true? Can I prove that it's true, that my knees are just going to hurt forever? Or can I prove that it's not true, that my knees don't have to hurt every single day of the week? So that's kind of my thought on that.
Yeah. A few things that you said resonated very strongly with me. And going back to what you're saying about advertising, culturally, we've been told that, the quick fix, the hack, the pill, makes it all better. And many times those are just masks, Band-Aids. And if you have the courage to keep on your journey of discovering and testing and discovering and being curious about different modalities, different things that you can try, it becomes much more exciting. It's very empowering, I believe, to be able to take back control of how you're facing your challenges, your health challenges.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's so much to learn out there, and you understand yourself better too, because as you try and experiment with different things, you learn more of who you are, which I write about this in the book too. Like, the journey to build a body you love to live in is the greatest, most lifelong journey you will ever go on. And it will infiltrate your entire life, because as you try a movement program, maybe you're like, okay, I like what she's saying, I'm going to go do Kate's program. Okay. As you do that, you learn about how you show up for your consistency to your habit that you're trying to set. You learn about when you get a little lazy and you go on your phone on the rest sets, because we all do that in the gym, right? Like, you're scrolling Instagram when you're supposed to be just resting for 30 seconds. You learn about how when you maybe cut corners, or when you discipline and you double down. In addition, learning how to do things like change your diet, change your movement, get rid of the limiting beliefs that are holding you back. You discover how strong you are as a person. You discover tools and things of, like, I think they're fitness metrics, but they're not going to help you bench press. They help you bench press, but they're like your grit, your determination, your willingness to stick with something even when it's hard. There is a point in life where you are going to have to call on those aspects of your fitness, not because you need to bench press, but because you need to get through a really hard thing in your life that is asking more of you than anything ever has before. And why not use your experience of living in your body and building it to be something you love to sharpen those skills and hone your ability to tap into that when you really need it.
Yes, absolutely. And a few things that really stuck out for me and was just having that curiosity and also holding some self-compassion as while you're going through the process, kind of being your own best friend and support system. But to your point, I certainly agree with the more things we try, even if we don't think it's successful, just opening up a little bit more awareness every chance we take, every opportunity we jump onto. Is a little bit of resilience.
I call it curious compassion. And so with my clients, I teach them, let's go from an exasperated ugh to a curious so that when you do something and you're like, oh, it didn't work, or it didn't work the way I thought it would, instead of being like, oh gosh, this again, you can go, why didn't it work? Because then you can ask another question. Okay, well, what did I do differently? What might I have missed? Why might it not have worked? What might work better? I mean, you adopt an explorer's mindset where you're always expanding and looking and going, what am I missing? What can I learn? What data is out there to help me, rather than being like, look, we all get exasperated from time to time. Trust me, especially when it comes to like internet doohickeys. There's times where I'm like, can we just go back to pen and paper, please?
So true.
Please, the technology is great and awful at the same time. we all get exasperated. But if you can catch yourself sooner and switch it from a ugh to a okay, I can figure this out. Think about it with our outdoorsmanship, right? If you are just exasperated, you'll never figure out where you are if you're lost. If you can't get your fire started, you'll never do it. If you're just like, this is annoying, this is stupid, I don't want to do it. You have to be like, what's not working? What am I missing? What's in this picture that I didn't consider? Is there anything I'm not seeing that I should be seeing? You have to be willing to problem solve to get your way out of a mess. And frankly, a lot of us, when we first are starting this journey, feel like our body's a mess that we're living in. And we feel like, I didn't even make the mess and I'm living in it. Like, what the heck? So be curious, have compassion as you do so.
This episode of Fierce Planet Adventures podcast is brought to you by 5 Mountain Coaching, licensed unbeatable mind coaching, integrated accelerated vertical growth across 5 domains of cutting-edge development designed by retired Navy SEAL Commander Mark Devine. Learn the Big 4 skills of mental toughness and resiliency. Discover the 6 pillars of performance. Test your mettle with custom-created crucibles across all 5 domains. Visit 5mountaincoaching.com to schedule your free 1-hour unbeatable mind coaching session. That's the number 5, mountaincoaching.com. Begin your journey to becoming unbeatable today. Oh, I love it. We've talked a little bit about, some of the physical hurdles, some of the societal hurdles, some of the medical field hurdles that we've come up against. But what about, mindset or, how we were raised? Maybe we saw, our parents going through things and they were stuck in the medical system without much resolution to their issues. Maybe the epigenetics of it all. How do you dive into that and start, breaking down those beliefs that were shown early on in life?
Yeah, I think that's really important to investigate in yourself, because we do all have things that are passed to us. And in fact, we know that some aspects of experiencing painful sensations have tethers to beliefs that you have either developed or been told that that is what you believe, past experiences you've had, things people have told you about, like you'll be in a wheelchair. Like, what a great way to make somebody feel frail and worried about their body. Tell them they're going to have to be in a wheelchair when that may not necessarily be true. And so we know that those things can cause us to experience pain where maybe we don't even have a physical tissue damage that is causing the pain, but it's something in our inner psyche that is contributing to our body thinking it needs to create a painful sensation. So we know that. But then also, I think this is so common. And I think I'm in my 40s, and I think we are one of the first generations that gets to break the chains of what we've heard our parents always had and our grandparents had and their parents had. I come from a family that had some heart condition issues. And then I also have a long history of alcoholism in my dad's side of the family. And we all deal with our challenges in a certain way. So no hate there, obviously. But I knew that from an early age. Like, I was up against some genetics that didn't look the most favorable. Like, if I could have chosen, maybe I would have chosen something different. The first book I ever read to start breaking down what I thought was true about my genetics was The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. Such a fantastic book. It's old now, but still relevant. And that's where I first learned about epigenetics and how it only takes one generation to change the course. It really does. But you have to look at the inputs in your environment. You have to look at the things that influence you. And someone doesn't need to go get a degree in genetics to understand this. You just need to start understanding that, like I teach, our bodies are ecosystems. And like an ecosystem in nature, it's influenced by things going on within the ecosystem and how they're all working together. But that ecosystem is also influenced by the external factors that could be things like a forest fire that comes from somewhere else to this area. It could be, a hard winter, a season of drought. It's not something that technically emanated from that particular forest, but that forest is being influenced by it. Our bodies are the same way. They are being constantly influenced by the external environment. And that can be the clothes and shoes you wear, the food you eat, the messages you hear on TV or from your family, your job, how you sit. It also is being influenced by your internal ecosystem as well, which is your muscles. How are you using or not using them? What's going on in your gut? How are your inflammation levels? Do your joints move in the ways that they're built to move? How often do you signal to your body that it should maintain certain aspects of itself? Or are you telling your body it should kind of downregulate some of those factors of muscle and fitness and tissue? Our bodies are just like ecosystems in nature. I mean, we are a part of nature, whether we like it or not. And so if we can start to recognize that, we can start to untether this notion that, well, genetically, I've always been this way, or my family's always told me that that's how our family is. Our whole family has knee pain. Our whole family has flat feet. Well, but that stuff's that's not coded in your DNA such that you can't change it. Your DNA is coded in such that, like, I will never be like a Michael Jordan level basketball player. I don't even like basketball, but like if I did, I am not built to be a Michael Jordan level player. I'm also not built to be any elite athlete, frankly, but I can reach my potential by learning how to adapt my body and create responses that I want and that feel good for me. I think the harder message, though, is that so many folks hear from people close to them, because God loves people, but like we spout stuff out sometimes and we don't realize the effects it has. Those of us who've grown up around maybe parents who've had things to say about our weight as we grew up know that this can be highly impactful, that what you hear mothers say about dieting sticks in a young child's brain. And this is very similar to about our bodies, especially as we get older, because I have tons of clients who have siblings who are like, the sibling is telling them like, what are you doing? Just get on the medication and accept it. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is ridiculous, because that's what they're doing. And these clients of mine are like the black sheep who are choosing not to do that and are choosing to find another way, not because they think it's wrong. They just are like, I just want to go a different way and see if it will work for me. But it pierces you to hear family or close friends be like, what are you doing? Like, stop it. You should be slowing down. And I don't know if they realize what they're doing when people say that, but they are making an impact, and it's not ideal. And so you really have to steel yourself to get true on who you are and what you know to be true, and know who's worth listening to and who is worth going, thank you. I know you love me. I'm going this way.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, so so much resonated there. I definitely had a lot of that external influence growing up in my family, and talk about weight, body, what was considered healthy, what wasn't. And yeah, somehow I got lucky enough to stumble upon self-awareness and started those practices, and it really changes everything when you know the answers you are looking for are within inside yourself. It's just a matter of getting out of the mind and into the body, and feeling into what you know is true and not what everyone's telling you about yourself.
Yeah. Well,
no one knows you better than you.
Well, totally. Well, and also we don't know ourselves very well when we first start out, because unless you grew up in a home where introspection was encouraged and guided, I didn't know myself very well. And I have found that as I've grown, like all of my beliefs, not just about my body, but it started with my body, but like my political beliefs, my personal beliefs, my values, what I think about the world. Most of those, I didn't know why I thought them at first. I had to sit down with myself and be like, wait a minute, and then think through a bunch of things and dismantle the whole thing and put it back together. And I just want to give folks who are listening and thinking, well, gosh, that sounds scary, because dismantling thoughts I have about my body means I have to wade into some stuff that maybe I don't want to think about, or that I'm going to have to face. That's hard, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. And I don't think there's a better thing to do than to go within yourself and to figure out who you are and what you stand for in all areas of your life.
Absolutely. I'm almost 40, and I think I just figured out who I was, about a year ago or less.
Weird, huh?
It is. And it's still peeling the onion. I mean, there's no there, as Andy likes to say, but
yeah, I like that. There's no there.
Constant journey.
It's a lifelong journey. The whole thing is. And fitness and movement and body care is such a great opportunity to practice that, because it doesn't require anybody else. You might need an expert to help you with things you don't know yet, but it doesn't require anything other than your willingness to say, you know what? I am worth figuring this out. I don't want to feel this way. I'd rather go on the journey and see if it's true than stay the way I am right now.
Yes, well put.
Yeah, you have to get to, I think in my experience, you have to get to a level of discomfort where the discomfort is so great that you have to do something else. And I've certainly been there over the course of my life in various situations. And that certainly led us to where we are right here, right now. Without pivots 10 years ago, we wouldn't be here right now. So, take stock in that, and where your journey begins is, the first step is the hardest, and each consecutive step becomes a little easier, and the reward is well worth it. But you also have to understand, just like you both said, is, there's no there. The journey is continuous. It's till the very end, and it's a winding road. And I'll tell you, it's been, for us, for me personally, it's been just amazing. It's been an adventure of a lifetime. I'd like to talk a little bit, Kate, about, how people can begin to break down the hurdles. We talked about, the different things that they come up against, but with your training, where do they begin? What's the first step? Obviously making a choice, but then the choice has been made. Where do they plant their next foot?
Well, I think, coming from a movement background, I'm probably biased. I think movement is a great place to start. Here's why. The way our tissues respond and change, so muscles, ligaments, fascia, all of it, the way they respond and change is through force. And force can be motion. It can be body weight things. It can be lifting something heavy. It can be dancing. It's anything on your body. Gravity is a force on our body. Our body responds to force. And it's the only way to really communicate with your body the changes that you want it to make. Our bodies are always paying attention and responding to the signals they receive. So nothing is there by accident. Doesn't mean that you intentionally put it there. So, like when I was at my worst, it was not like I purposely put myself into this, dark hole that I was in, but a series of circumstances I was participating in by not being active a certain way, by believing certain things I had been told, by eating a certain way, and so on and so forth, led me to the state that I was in. And so I think we have to acknowledge that movement is so powerful, because that's how our tissues change. And if you can start to change your tissues, you will change how you feel. You will also start to feel more empowered, and you will start to learn more, because you'll go, oh, my hip doesn't feel good in that position. Whoa, my shoulder can't move that way. Whoa, I didn't know necks are supposed to move like that. And so you can start exploring and experimenting into all of this, whether you have an injury currently, and it could be an ache or a severe injury, or you're like, I just don't feel good. I don't feel energized. I don't feel strong. I don't feel capable. Whichever end of the spectrum you're on, or if you're thinking about sports and performance, movement is the first key that you need, because if you're going to make healthier, better tissues that are stronger and capable of handling more, you have to move them. You have to impart a force onto the tissue for the tissue at the cellular level to do this amazing thing where it actually reorganizes itself so that it can be stronger and more functional for you. Movement is the only key in there. And then the secondary effect to that is that can have a positive influence on any pain you might be experiencing. Now, when folks listening are thinking, well, okay, so do I just get moving in all the ways? We don't want to push through pain, because pain is an alert signal from your body telling you, hey, this might need your attention. And while pain is really complex, I devoted a whole chapter to it just in my book. It's really, really complex. So we don't want to oversimplify it, but we do want to know that pain is an indicator of something that is telling us, yo, pay attention, might want to do something about this. But we can work around pain, and we can work up to the point of pain, and we can continue to explore and move. And what does that do? That allows you to still feel empowered, because let's all raise our hand if we've ever had pain so bad that it feels impossible to move. I'm raising my hand. Yeah, we're all raising our hand. what does that do then? It makes you feel like life sucks. It makes you feel like there's nothing you can do. You start to feel frail, weak, and all of these beliefs can then start to actually make it so you stay experiencing pain longer and greater than you might have otherwise. So my goal for all my clients is to say, okay, we need to get moving, and we'll decide on the movements we need to do based on kind of what you need and where you're at, whether it's severe pain or sports or otherwise. But also, we need to find where the pain is so that we can work up to and around it, which then allows you to still feel like, hey, I can do something in my life. I can keep moving, even though I have this area that doesn't feel so good, what I call areas of opportunity. I've got this area of opportunity where I can't quite move the way I would like because it hurts. The cool thing about that is then your brain and nervous system in time will start to go, maybe it's safe to go a little bit further. Okay, maybe we'll lighten the pain just a little bit. And in time, you actually start to reclaim movement that otherwise was blocked off to you because your nervous system was just protecting you, trying to keep you safe. So I think the first place lots of people should start is with movement. And I teach some lovely movements in my book bonus section that comes with my book. It's like a series of 6 movements that are a great starting place for someone just getting started. And then, of course, with coaching, we can get into more and more detailed stuff. But also, it's not just exercise. It's your life. You need to move in your life. Exercise is a sliver of your day. If you even do it every day. Some of us weight train 3 days a week. Okay, well, what are you doing all the rest of the days? Your life. I want your life to encompass more movement. Go on walks. Create a life that encourages movement. Take up gardening so that you have to get down on the ground. Get a puppy so that you have to play with it. Maybe you could even do things that are a little less, intense in that sense and less all-encompassing as a puppy or a garden, but like do things by hand. Get on the floor and sit on the floor instead of sitting in a chair. Take the stairs when the escalator is available. Look for ways to incorporate movement into your life because you will enrich your life tremendously, not just in the physical sense, but in the rest of your life and in the quality of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a big proponents of using we like to call spot drills throughout the day. So very similar to what you're talking about. So you got to get up and move. You're at the computer, maybe 30 minutes, get up and move for 5 or 10 minutes. It could be something as simple as walking up and down the stairs, or something as difficult as, trying to knock out, 30 pull-ups. Or maybe it's a yoga sequence or just some deep diaphragmatic breath work, to balance and stabilize. It doesn't have to be anything crazy hard. It can be done in 5 minutes and it just peppered throughout your day.
I love that. It's really true. And you said something important there. It doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to be complicated, right? Yes, there are amazing workouts you can do that have huge, awesome benefits to them. But in the fitness industry, we make this mistake a lot. We're so excited about that sort of stuff that we forget that most people are like, they just need to get started. And I really try to champion the notion that like little things make a difference. It's why I developed the signal response principle, which everyone can memorize. My body is always responding to the signals it receives. That means if I'm sitting in a chair, as soon as we finish our chat today, if I get up, that's a new signal. If I do some squats, that's a new signal. If I walk 10 feet down the driveway and back up, that's a signal. It all counts. And yes, you can be complicated in your fitness and your diet and the way you live your life, but you also can be really simple about it too. And it still makes an impact.
Yeah. In fact, I encourage clients to not overcomplicate their day and their methods for tracking. Make it as simple as you can where you still get the benefits and you're able to measure progress.
Yeah.
I think, there's so much going on in the world right now with, in the fitness industry, in the mindset industry, and these are good things, right? But, we just need one more device to measure something, one more trinket to, do this or do that. And it's, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Just, take your pen and paper and write it down, journal it out.
Yeah. There's like a wonderful time and place for all the amazing technology that exists in the world, but not at the cost of losing your intuition.
There you go.
I think our intuition with our body is so important. And this is why I'm a huge proponent of teaching folks how to get back in the driver's seat of their life and really remember that they have autonomy with their body. They are the one who knows the best what is right for them. Your gut is right when it's giving you that little like something. I think I need a second opinion here. I'm not totally convinced on this first opinion I've gotten. That is a thing, but we have a world today where you are not intentionally conditioned. I don't want to be that cynical, although some days I am cynical. I'm like, they're doing it on purpose. People want you to just buy the product. They don't want you to think for yourself. But we live in a world where there's things to sell and things to get people hyped on, And so of course that people want to sell their products. I want to sell my fitness program. I want to sell books. But I want my stuff to complement someone's autonomy and their intuition and their knowing that like, I do know what's right for me. I can figure this out, because even if you're not the medical professional you might need because you're in a very challenging, life-threatening situation, and you're going to have to go to that medical professional, you still need to feel like, I got this. I can handle this. I can get through this. I can do this. I have the will to get through this. And when we take that away by teaching people that like, it's something outside of them that is the reason they are achieving or sleeping well, or, I'm thinking of all the little wearables that tell you if you're ready to face the day. Those are great. But if they eliminate your own sense of knowing, we got a problem. We need people to keep that sense of knowing, because sometimes those stupid devices are not right. And you can push a little harder, even though it says back off, or you should take a break, even though it says you're ready to go, or that person maybe isn't the right person for you and you should go talk to someone else. So I think personal intuition, so important. And you only find that, like you said, by not over intensely adding so much to your day that it isn't simple anymore, that you don't have any space to hear yourself because it's too complicated.
Oh, so well put.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet.
So for folks listening in that want to find out more or connect with you, where should they go?
I would love it if folks would head to theunbreakablebody.com. I have a shop there where you can pick up my book. You can also get it on Amazon if you're not in the lower 48 of the US. And then I also am on social media, like we all are, right? You can find me at Kate Galliett all over the internet. Just web search me and you'll find a million things. But if folks would like to get started and get connected, head to The Unbreakable Body, because in addition to the book being there, I write this newsletter every week that I just love doing, because it's exactly what we've been talking about. I share one thing that I'm doing for my health and wellness that week, and I show people how they can do that one thing too, and break down this complexity that we're talking about into like, look, people, one thing for your health and well-being can be like, I looked out the window for 5 minutes after my computer worked so that my eyes could have a break. That's how easy it can be. And sometimes it's more complex and sometimes it's less. So folks can get on that newsletter there, and it's totally free. And I would love for folks to read it.
Oh, what a great message too. We definitely need someone like you out there opening our minds and eyes up to more possibilities.
Thanks. Well, we need people like you folks as well. You're just a voice of reason in a world of slight insanity.
Did she just accuse me of being reasonable? What?
I've been called worse.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. We appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you as well. Thank you so much.
Friends, if you found the Fierce Planet Adventures podcast helpful, please consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. It helps others find our podcast.
If you screenshot your review and tag us on Instagram, we'll send you a classic Fierce Planet Adventures sticker. For your water bottle, cooler, car, send us a direct message with your mailing address on Instagram, and we'll send you that sticker right out.
Thanks for joining us, and live fiercely.